Thank you. Good evening. Seeing a presence of a quorum, I am calling the 6:30 special meeting of the Town Council to order, the March 30th, 2026 special meeting of the Town Council to order at 6:30 p.m. Please be advised that this meeting is being held in person and that remote access option for members of the public is provided as a courtesy only. In the event of technology issues with the remote connection, the meeting will continue in person as scheduled, as long as there is a quorum of the council present in the town room or through technological means. Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 extended through June 30th, 2027, the ability of public bodies to meet without a quorum of the council physically present in a meeting location, although a quorum of the council is present in the town room. This meeting is being recorded and is accessible in real time by Zoom, by phone, and as a live broadcast on Amherst Media Channel 9 and at amherstmedia.org. At this time, I will call upon each counselor by the name they have indicated that they would like to be addressed. This will indicate that we can hear you and you can hear us. Counselor Breivik.
Yes.
Counselor Kendall Martin.
Yes.
Andy Churchill.
Yes.
Anna Devlin Gauthier.
Yes.
Lynn Griesemer.
Present.
Mandy Jo Haneke is present. Counselor Lord.
Present.
Sam McLeod.
Present.
Pam Rooney.
Here.
Counselor Ryan.
Present.
Kathy Shane.
Here.
Jennifer Taub.
Here.
And Counselor Walker is not here yet. If counselors have technological issues, please let the council clerk know or call a point of personal privilege. In addition to the special public comment period for DPW employees, there will be one general public comment period. If you are in the town room, please sign up with the council clerk to make public comment. Or if you are a DPW employee and want to make comment, please sign up with the town clerk. If you are attending remotely, at the right time, I will ask you to raise your hand in the Zoom application when we reach those 2 times. We are going to move one announcement before we move on our agenda. The executive session that was listed on the agenda will not be held tonight. We are removing that from the agenda. We will move on in the agenda to the special public comment period. This is a special public comment period to hear from DPW workers, Department of Public Works employees, about the plethora of concerning issues they are facing. This is at the request, the town council special meeting was called pursuant to Charter Section 2.6D3, and this is one of the items they requested on this agenda. Any Department of Public Works employee wishing to make public comment during the special public comment period who is attending remotely, please raise your hand in the Zoom application. If you are present in the town room and have not signed up with the council clerk, please do so now. At least Counselor Walker has arrived. I'll let her get seated before I call on her.
Here.
Thank you. Department of Public Works employees are welcome to make public comments about the plethora of concerning issues they are facing during this special public comment period. The council will not engage in a dialogue or comment on a matter raised during this special public comment period. Public comments are not reflective of the opinions of the town council. The First Amendment broadly protects individuals' rights to address the government, to speak and to express themselves, including their right to say hateful and offensive things. I'm generally unable to shut those commenters down under the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution unless their level of speech falls within an exception articulated by the courts, such as fighting words, true threats to a particular individual, harassment of a particular individual, or incitement of imminent lawless activity. If a question exists as to whether a particular speaker is engaging in unprotected speech, I must defer to the principle of freedom of speech. Athena, there are no hands at this time raised on Zoom of DPW employees who wish to make public comment. How many people have signed up? There are 5 DPW employees in the town room that has signed up for public comment. So they're each public commenter during this special public comment period will have 3 minutes to make their comment. Athena,
Andrew Brace.
Andrew, please come on up, unmute them, make sure the mic is working, state your name and make your comment. Is the light on? Yeah,
Does that work? Okay.
there we go.
All right. Hi, my name is Andrew Brace. I'm the president of the Amherst DPW Associations and the chief operator at the wastewater treatment plant. My division is responsible for the sewage treatment plant, which treats approximately 4 million gallons of sewage a day. We operate and maintain 22 pump stations around town and are responsible for 123 miles of sewer pipes, some dating back to the early 1900s. We operate as a public utility with staffing required 365 days a year, including weekends and holidays, and on-call coverage every day for after-hours emergencies. I'm on call right now, so if I get a call, I need to leave this room and go respond. Currently, only 3 of us have the required wastewater license to cover the plant, so that means between the 3 of us, we have to split the 365-day-a-year coverage. For the past several years, we have had near constant numerous vacancies. We always hire people with no experience or certifications and train them and watch them leave for more money, and they often go to work at a less complex system. The training placed an extreme demand on the current staff here at the time. At wastewater, we have lost 26 staff in the last 10 years, and that's including 4 retirements. There have been longstanding issues with low paid wages, understaffing, high turnover, and low retention, and they are not isolated to the wastewater division and are seen across DPW. I would like to provide some background and updates as to where we are with negotiations. We've had 8 negotiating meetings, 4 mediation sessions, and 3 meetings this March in which the town manager has been present. This Wednesday will mark 9 months working under an expired contract. The last meeting on March 18th, I feel, was very productive and I acknowledge movement by the town. We received the town's finalized written offer and wage charts on Tuesday, March 23rd last week, and we needed some time for us and our attorney to really review all the details. There are some issues and details we still need to iron out, but we have not had a chance to communicate these with the town yet and are hoping to do that very soon. There's a couple new things in there we really haven't seen before, so that took some time to review and consider. We feel we're very close to an agreement that will act as a stepping stone to addressing many longstanding issues with DPW, but more work will need to be done in future contracts. I'd like to thank you all for having this special meeting. It means a lot to us that you've all made time for us to have our voices heard tonight. I hope part of what comes from this special meeting will be a starting point for the town to have a healthy and properly functioning DPW, which consequently will be a great benefit to the residents and to the town. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight, Andrew, and making your comment. Athena?
I think the next name is Mike Perez. I'm sorry, I can't read the handwriting. Is it Mike Perez? Okay, please come on up. Thanks.
Mike, please come on up, state your name and where you live and make your comment.
Hello, my name is Michael Perez. I'm one of the mechanics at the DPW. I don't live in town, but I'm from Ware. In regards to the condition of the buildings, what I wanted to touch on tonight. I don't know if everyone knows all the things that are wrong with it. So I'm going to try to quickly run down a list of some of the major things that I don't know if everyone's aware of. Starting with the collapsing roof. We have a collapsed roof over one of the active workspaces. It's over a staircase that we use on a daily basis when some of us need to go get parts from a loft and supplies. The upper level offices and what we call the main bay. Most of those offices cannot be used because the ceilings have collapsed and the walls have been torn out. The drywall was at one time torn out. The floors are spongy. Sometimes when it rains, if enough water gets in there, when you walk on the floor in some of those offices, the floor is spongy and water just comes up between the floor tiles. We have water that comes in through active light fixtures and what we call the main bay, which is where we park most of our equipment. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that active light fixtures and water is not a good mixture. Could be a fire hazard. We still have mold in the main bay, in different parts of the bay, and in the mechanic shop, where I work. In the engineering department has water that comes in multiple areas over some of their equipment and over some of their storage cabinets for some of their files and various things that they use. In the mechanic shop where I work, we have water that comes in, runs down an electrical conduit. And over time, we didn't realize it was happening. It ruined a lot of some of our inventory for parts. We have a cabinet where we keep electric parts, electronic stuff. It's ruined a lot of the inventory that was in that cabinet. So that it's kind of a waste of money there. In our compressor room, the water that comes in through what I mentioned before, the collapsing roof, makes its way through that staircase into our compressor room and leaks on some of our inventory that we have in there. And there's mold in there as well. There's mold in our part storage room on the ceiling. Ventilation in the shop is poor. There are times where we have two fans. One of them is on its way out. One of them only works until it overheats, then it shuts down. There are times where if we're welding or we're using a plasma cutter or painting in that shop, the fumes get so poisonous in that shop. There's no ventilation. It doesn't go anywhere. There's times where we have to open the doors and just leave just to give ourselves a break from the fumes and to let the place air out. So there you're losing productivity from us because we got to take time from our jobs just so we can take a breath outside. There was flooding in the cellar of the DPW recently. We have loose the facade on the front of the building over the walkways, malfunctioning garage doors, and there's water leaks in the water department, ironically enough, as well, when it rains hard enough. I know 3 minutes wasn't enough time for me to spiel my whole thing here, but I just wanted to let you guys know if anyone is willing, I'd be happy to give people tours. If anybody wants to come down to the building, I don't care if it's on a weekend, if it's after work, it's early in the morning, I'll make the time to meet with you guys and take you for a tour and show you all this stuff I listed off here plus more, if that helps, just to shed some light on it.
Thank you so much for coming tonight, Michael.
Okay, thank you for your time.
John Foster?
Thank you, John. Once you have a seat, please state your name and where you live, and then feel free to make your comment.
Hi, my name is John Foster. I'm the drinking water treatment supervisor for the town of Amherst. Over 1 year ago, I was elected by the union to participate in the current ongoing negotiation process. We prepared diligently and worked hard to develop our argument, created a handout full of supporting evidence, printed current job postings from similar towns. I went into our first meeting and what I discovered was that none of it mattered. None of that preparation mattered because the town's representatives had been told they are not authorized to go above their initial offer. We asked why when the budget hadn't been set yet and never received a clear answer. What proceeded in the months after those first couple meetings has been union busting and stall tactics from the town. I also realized from the beginning that the town's consultant is there for one purpose, and that's to do the town's dirty work. It's clear to me that the rest of the committee that the consultant fee and the money the town pays for their lawyers to fight our union is to shut us up and shut real negotiations down. My message to the town is to please stop lawyering this self-run union to death. It feels like we're fighting some huge corporation with deep pockets and not the town of Amherst. Let me be clear about the proposal that's now on the table. Amherst roads are a disaster. It looks like Mad Max on the streets, right? The town's addressing that by putting money into them over 5 years. That doesn't make the roads better. It keeps them from getting worse. And that is what is on the table for the workers at the DPW right now. The contract we are looking at now may keep some people from leaving, but it doesn't actually fix the problem. Speaking of problems, there's also the current DPW building. You just heard from Mike. A Sampson Company, the Weston Sampson report on the building in 2016 deemed it outdated, undersized, and functionally deficient. That was 10 years ago. About 8 years ago, the town manager held a DPW-wide meeting where he told us that the town was moving forward with plans and that we were getting a new building. He never spoke to us about it again. Is it our responsibility to ask for a safe working environment? Should that burden fall on us when the town is so clearly aware that the building is a health hazard? If the union doesn't say something about the toxic mold report done in 2019, does it still exist? Or does the Department of Labor Standards report exist? Or the Department of Public Health report? The problem is that we are all so desensitized to this treatment that we expect it. And up until now, we accepted it. Up until now. Because now is the time to make meaningful change. Make the DPW a priority, the staff, building, and infrastructure. Show that Amherst cares about equity and justice for people who work hard for this town. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
Patrick McNeil.
Could you repeat the name, Athena?
Patrick McNeil.
Thank you. Patrick, please come on up and state your name, where you live, and make your comment.
Hello, my name is PJ McNeil. I'm part of the next generation of the DPW. I'm a mechanic at the Amherst wastewater treatment plant. I'm also an Amherst resident. I live on Sherman Lane. I've spent my whole life in Amherst and wanted to join the Amherst DPW to give back to my community. This community has raised me, and I enjoy it very much. I'm here today because I see firsthand that our DPW looks after our infrastructure and that the DPW that we rely on so greatly is being left behind by the town of Amherst. The DPW building has been left to rot and crumble. Our roads are wasting away. Our water piping infrastructure is bursting at the seams. The second reason I've come here tonight is that I'm also 24, and though I am lucky enough to have two very loving mothers that allow me to live with them, I am looking to move out soon. I've been crunching the numbers, and if things continue to go the way they are, I'm not sure if I'll be able to afford a house for myself or the ability to start a family in or anywhere near this town that I enjoy so much. Please consider your DPW employees when you think of the future of this town. We keep the town running, and those of us who are residents would love to raise children in this town. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ, for coming tonight.
Alan Snell.
Alan, please come on up, state your name, where you live, and make your comment.
Hi, I'm Alan Snow. I live on Longtown Road. Lived in Amherst for 38 years, raised my family here. Became a town employee in 2011 as Division Director of Tree and Grounds. 3 minutes is enough time. So first of all, thank you everybody on the council for what you do. As a citizen of Amherst, I appreciate everything you do. It takes a lot of time and effort and thought to do it. Very complicated community. Thank the town manager. And I want to thank the town staff and town hall that make all of this possible and many other things in town. And I want to thank all my partners in DPW who do awesome work that make everything we do function as a division and DPW. We all help each other out. In my opinion, in 15 years of working for the town, we have a maintenance issue. We do not fund maintenance. In Tree and Grounds, we have tried for years to get funding to properly just maintain athletic fields, or street trees. And we put in requests for money, and we generally are told we can't do that. Sometimes if there's a major incident, money will magically appear and it will get fixed. Recently, the town gave the school system $150,000 to maintain the new athletic fields for 2 years. We simply were asking for the $20,000 to do the exact same thing with town staff, not paying some contractor prevailing wage to do it. So why does the money appear when a crisis happens? This goes on with all of our infrastructure, whether it's the police department, Banks Community Center, DPW building, Um, You are in control of the budgets. You make the decisions. The money is there. It is a priority. DPW is not a priority. Staff's not a priority. What we accomplish is not a priority. You just gave money out of the road projects to the regional school to fix a roof that is leaking and has been leaking for quite a long time. So I don't understand why we can't fund maintenance. Every person that approaches me on the street talks about the roads. You must be hearing this. That's just the roads. Lots of infrastructure we maintain. Think about maintenance. It's not sexy. Other communities do it. Why aren't we doing it? We're like third or sixth in the state in general fund spending on DPW. Third or sixth from the bottom. We're up at the top in libraries. You probably read the article in that was online for a while. Amherst Indy article about Amherst spending priorities. Great article. So let's try to fix it. I live here, you live here. We all drive on the same roads. We all love the same clean drinking water. Let's see what we can do to fix it, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for coming tonight. Are there any other names on the list? That is it. Thank you to the DPW employees for coming tonight. We are going to move on to item number 3 on our agenda, which is general public comment. Anyone wishing to make general public comment who is attending remotely, please raise your hand in the Zoom application. If you are present in the town room and have not signed up with the council clerk, please do so now. Residents are welcome to make public comments on matters within the jurisdiction of the town council. The council will not engage in a dialogue or comment on a matter raised during the general public comment period. Public comments are not reflective of the opinions of the town council. Again, the First Amendment broadly protects individuals' rights to address the government, to speak and to express themselves, including the right to say hateful and offensive things. I am generally unable to shut those commenters down under the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution unless their level of speech falls within an exception articulated by the courts, such as fighting words, true threats to a particular individual, harassment of a particular individual, or incitement of imminent lawless activity. If a question exists as to whether a particular speaker is engaged in unprotected speech, I must defer to the principle of freedom of speech. There is one hand raised in the Zoom application of people who wish to make public comment. How many people in the town room have signed up? 2? Each commenter will have 3 minutes to make their public commenter. We're going to start with the town room.
Michael Brown.
Michael, please come on up, state your name and where you live, and make your comment.
Michael Brown, Station Road. Spoke here once before. Hoped to be speaking here without feeling embarrassed and disappointed. But here I am, embarrassed and disappointed. And I don't understand it. I don't understand the relationship between this group, this council, and our town manager. But to sit here and hear that the strategies that he's employing are stiff-arming and bullying is what it sounds like to me. That represents me? No, it doesn't represent me. Shouldn't represent you. And if it does, you shouldn't be on this council. So here we are, we're giving a raise that doesn't really address anything. And we're asking these good people to endure. Endure while what? We stiff-arm them? Terrible. The building. The building, for me as a resident, is a liability. What are we waiting for? For them to sue us? For someone to get hurt, get sick? Then what? This is known. Known for years. You think you're going to avoid liability? You should talk to your town council because there's absolutely liability in that building. And you are responsible for making decisions about when that gets repaired, and you are furthering our potential exposure. We don't have the money for that, and we shouldn't be treating them this way. I guess I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight, Michael. Maria Kopicki, please unmute yourself, state your name and where you live, and make your comment.
Thank you, Maria Kopicki, South Amherst. I'm not going to take the whole 3 minutes because I am just here to support the DPW workers, and everything that they are doing. I want to thank the 4 counselors who have made this meeting happen despite it being ridiculously difficult to get done. Listen to the DPW. Please, please stop messing around with them. Give them the working conditions and the support that they need to make our lives healthy. Please stop having weird priorities when your priority should be the people who make this town safe for us. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight, Maria.
Vincent O'Connor.
Vincent, please come on up, state your name and where you live, and make your comment.
I'd like to start off by saying I heard much of what I heard tonight from the DPW, not about the pay, but about the building 8 to 9 years ago in town meeting. It was actually described as being OSHA violations. Now, I think I'll have to confess, I didn't think it was my job to file OSHA complaints about a town building that I didn't know the people who worked in it. But I do feel some shame that I just didn't do it. And quite frankly, what has gone on in the last 9 years, where a building that should have been the first priority has ended up being the 3rd or 4th priority because of that building over there, which everyone knows should not have been the first priority. Second, you have the written version of my comments from last Monday. And I think when I read the legalisms of the manager's quote executive order, what I realized is that it doesn't involve personal cowardice on behalf of the manager. I think it betrays a lack of empathy and concern for the people who might be affected. It is the very same situation that that Lincoln found unacceptable at the beginning of the Civil War. He couldn't find someone who wanted to go into battle because, quite frankly, they did not share his beliefs. Quite frankly, the manager does not really believe that we should care about the people who are being pursued by ICE. That's what his order is about. They're dispensable. We can live without them, and so forth. And I think, as Lincoln found out, the only way that you can get leadership that leads people into battle against what needs to be done is to find new leadership.
Thank you for coming tonight, Vincent.
Jerry Levitsky.
Jerry? Please come on up, state your name, where you live, and make your comment.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jerry Levinsky. I live at 21 Halleck Street, apartment 20. So much has been said. I've lived in Amherst since 1979. I'm a longtime resident. I grew up in Springfield and chose to move to Amherst. I've raised my son here. We are a community that always stood for things that we were always very proud of. This is a community that had people that were stand-up people in the community. Somebody used the term disappointed. I think it's beyond that. I think it's outrageous. I think it's outrageous because we're living through a moment in time where not caring about how the people that work for your organization are doing is commonplace. Busting unions, destroying workers' lives, it's all very commonplace. Unsafe conditions, toxic workplaces, mold, respiratory problems, putting aside the legal liability. It's all par for the course in the country that we're living in right now. But in Amherst, having a town management that is more committed to spending money on high-priced union-busting lawyers than in working with these folks who are the hardest working people this town has, that keep this town going on a daily basis, emergency in and emergency out, and money is being spent and authorized by this council to thwart their ability to get a fair contract, to get livable wages, to work in a safe space. Amherst, you guys need to think this over. You really do. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight, Jerry. Is there anyone else that has signed up?
No.
Thank you. That ends the general public comment period. We will move on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is a presentation and discussion. This is a presentation and discussion time as requested by the Charter Section 2.6 request to explore possible solutions that are within the purview of the council to enact. This is under presentations and discussions, so no motions will be made tonight because any motions need to come under action items, which we do not have tonight. Purview of the council to enact. Topics that cannot be discussed include anything that is a mandatory bargaining issue. That includes salaries, benefits, working conditions, questions of wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment, standards or productivity and performance, and any other terms and conditions of employment. That's just a general starting list. Topics that can be discussed as a potential general list. Things that are within the purview of the council to enact: the overall DPW budget, levels of services, expenditures on capital equipment, expenditures on safety equipment, water and sewer billing structures, potential swing space for use of a new DPW building, timing of a new DPW building. Those are potential topics that might fall within the purview of the council to enact. Obviously, neither list that I just raised is complete, and things sometimes go across those lists. I will be doing my best to keep the discussion within those topics that are within the purview of the town council. If anyone has a question as to that, please raise a point of order. Our attorney is here and will help me make a decision as to whether it is within our purview or not. They are online. I'm seeing a question of a counselor sitting here, but we have an attorney online in the panelists. So at this point, we will move to discussion on to explore possible solutions that are within the purview of the council to enact. Kathy.
I actually have a question. In your long list of what we could discuss, you didn't say the building. I have several comments I want to make about the DPW building. Is that part of this discussion?
That can be part of this discussion, or we have an item on our agenda for committee reports for the DPW building committee. It can fall under that too after that report is given.
I think I will use this time period also then? Okay, I don't need to start with that if other people want to start. Okay, I'll start. I'll start with the.
I
buil-
recognize you if you want to
Okay, I'll
go to the
start
next
with the
person. I'm happy
building.
to. Okay, so Kathy.
I don't understand why it took so long to put together a committee for the new DPW building. We made a decision on where it was going to go and possible two splits. And I've attended one meeting and heard about another meeting that there does not seem to be a sense of urgency. And we as a council, and I'm directing this mainly to the town manager, but we as a council a while ago, last year, said, get ready to put a shovel in the ground with a full plan for it by the end of 2026. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. I don't know why. I chaired the school building committee and we moved so much faster and we had a more complicated decision on what we were going to do because we had about 6 different options, but we moved faster than this. I just don't understand the pace. And one thing I was really concerned about when I went to the one meeting is another piece of property was brought in and we've been waiting 8 years. What about here? What about here? We made that decision. And I don't think anybody should be on that committee who's not adhering to that decision or we won't move forward. So I just want to know whether people have a fire in their belly to get this done or not.
Thank you, Kathy. Anna.
So this microphone is so much louder, sorry. One of the questions that I had was how over time, if we can look at the acres of land DPW is responsible for, or miles of road DPW is responsible for, and the on one axis, and then on the other axis, the operating budget that they've been given each year. That was something that was compelling to me as we've added conservation land, as we've added and trails, as we added fields, as we've added miles of road. How it does not sound like the operating budgets have been proportionately increased. And I would love to just see that kind of comparison done out. And it's something that I could probably pull, except for all of the compiled acres of land or miles of road per year. And those are 2 different areas. But I think that's one of my concern is we add and add and add without increasing proportionately operating dollars. And that's not touching on staffing numbers, not getting at that, just operating budget overall.
Thank you. Counselor Cano Martin.
So there's a few things that I think that we can do, and I would love for us to strategize with each other about the best way to get them done. And it's unfortunate that we can't make motions tonight, but I think that at the very least, we could talk about things we have agreement upon and like how we can move those, whether it's through a committee or whether it's through a group of counselors, you know, creating a proposal that we could bring back to the larger council. But I would like to see like a pathway forward on a few things. The first thing I think would be the swing space, which was something that you had mentioned. I know that we had spoken informally at the last meeting about possibly using the North Amherst School as a temporary space for the DPW workers. And I just feel like it's unconscionable to have them in that building even one more day. So I would like to see what is the path forward, what kind of proposal would need to be made, where that could come from, and happy to work on it if that's helpful and, you know, bring others together to work on that. The second piece that I think that we can act upon would be the sewer and water rates. And I just wanted to point to some materials that were not uploaded to the meeting materials for tonight, but had been shared with counselors about how our sewer and water rates compare to surrounding communities. And if those were to be increased or to be altered in certain ways, depending upon usage, that would actually generate more revenue that could help with our low wages. The third thing that I would really like to see action on is settling the current contract. I know we're very close, but I just wanted to express to the town manager that I hope that this will be settled really soon. I think that, you know, it's great that we're close, but I do think the use of this consultant is a barrier, and I would like us to stop doing that because it seems like language keeps getting inserted in that is not something that was originally there, and that's dragging this out even further. So that is a concern that I have, and I hope that's something that we can address.
Thank you. I'm going to respond. Water and sewer rates, at least on two of the items, are tentatively scheduled to be brought to the council potentially April 27th or May 4th. That is the typical timeframe we hear about next year's water and sewer rates. And we have been having conversations about when those are brought to the council, about having a discussion about not just the rate themselves, but also potentially how different categories of users are billed. So a restructuring of the whole thing. I'm not describing it well. So that is tentatively scheduled for April 27th. It may get pushed to May 4th, but so for water and sewer rates there. As for any motions, our rules require main motions and proposals to be in writing and produced. I'm happy to accept any of that at a point in time to put on a future agenda. If you would like to make a motion related to anything that includes a memo and all, I encourage you to look at the rules and submit that memo with a proposed motion that way, and we'll work it into an agenda in an appropriate place. Okay. Jennifer Taub.
Well, and obviously concurring with what,
Can you speak
yeah,
closer? Thank you.
you know, obviously I concur with everything that Kathy Shane and Counselor Cano Martin just said. And I feel very strongly that there has not been any urgency with the building. When I was elected to the council in the fall of 2021, before I even was sworn in 2022, all the newly elected councilors were invited to visit the DPW and the fire station and to understand the urgency of needing a new building, especially, well, with the DPW, and aside from this building committee being formed and meeting for the first time in 2026, really nothing tangible happened in the 4 years I was on the council. And when we received the email, I think it was on Friday, from Mary Lou Thielman, which including the report from a DPW building committee, or it might have been from the finance committee. No, it was 2016. Yeah, that in 2016, a report was issued. It was referred to tonight that the building was unsafe and in poor condition. And I'm sure that committee fully expected that by 2026, there would be a new building, and all of that, our DPW staff would have been working at it long before now. So I just, whether it's a swing space or I'm not an expert on this, but there are Butler buildings and prefab buildings, if there's some sort of temporary space that could be put up. But it really, like as Councilor Cano Martin said, it needs to almost be tomorrow, because it's certainly not fair or healthy to the DPW department, and it is a liability for the town. So whatever we can do, if this committee has to establish, the council has to establish a new committee, but we need to do something to ensure that our workers are not continuing to exist and spend their days in an unhealthy building. And I feel like it's become the way we do business maybe in the town, and the council has to take some responsibility for this, is things don't happen until they reach a crisis. So I felt terrible that we couldn't give all the $4 million to roads and sidewalks, but the middle school auditorium roof is so past the time when it needs to be replaced that students are on the stage getting rained on, and there's mold, and we really had no choice. So why can't we plan and do two things, what we have to do to put the funds aside, and if we can't make a go of it, if there really are no funds to ensure that when students are in the auditorium, they're not being rained on, and that our DPW workers don't need to go outside so they can breathe from the toxic fumes and the mold in the building they're working in. Have we spoken to UMass and Amherst College? Their students, who are more than half of the residents of the town, they must assume that we have a reasonably sound infrastructure, and we have clean water, and we have fully staffed and well-compensated Department of Public Works. And if we don't have the budget through our small base of taxpayers for the town to work, then I think our institutions of higher learning have to understand how urgent our situation is. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam McLeod.
Thank you, Mandy, and thank you to all of those in the meeting and online who have spoken. I appreciate the offer to come visit the DPW from, I believe it was Michael. I think I may take you up on that. The descriptions are resonate, and what popped into my head was we do have a few vacant buildings currently in town. One that jumped to my mind was the South School. I don't know what it takes to make it usable, but people referenced swing space. There's a building right there. It hasn't been used in a number of years. That might be a fine use for that building, considering some of the other alternatives that are out there. I think it's in the interest of the town, and it would be beneficial, I think, for the council and town staff to see if we can identify available options. I recognize that easier said than done. There may be a lot of steps that need to occur, but a new building is not going to get built right away. We've seen what it takes, let alone the funds. So I don't see why we can't jump on multiple avenues at the same time. And that's just that jumped into my, we do have a few buildings that are out there. Maybe trying to make them usable for, there's the burden, the DPW leadership, and consider the barriers of people in different facilities, but I think it's a discussion worth having, and maybe that can address one short term, one of the issues. I would advocate accordingly.
Counselor Brevik.
So yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Jen's point, and I think a few others have made points about the urgency piece. I think we're all feeling this. I think we all recognize something needs to be done. We all recognize that the committee process can move more slowly and that we need something to happen in the meantime. And since this is a discussion, I'm wondering, can we as a council deem the building to be unusable, basically condemn it or something along those lines? And if anyone knows anything about that sort of route, what would it take to condemn a building like that? Is that under our purview? Is that something we can move on? And if not, are there other ways to get something like that done? It's not something I know a tremendous amount about, but I thought if we had this time to discuss, if anyone knows, I just really, I can't get past that we're putting people's health at risk tomorrow when they show up to work. And all the points that have been made about lawsuits, all the points that have been made about OSHA violations. And it just feels like it is a building that people should not be in. And I think we're all kind of saying this, but I guess I just wanted to raise an idea to kind of get at some possible action steps and what can we do to stop people from having to go to work in that building as soon as is humanly possible.
Thank you. Counselor Walker.
Thank you, Mandy Jo. I wanted to thank the DPW workers for coming out again and for speaking again to us and to be willing to continue to stand up for yourselves. I feel like I feel very sorry that you have had to do all that to be heard, and I would hope that no other department will have to do the same thing in the future when they have these kinds of things happening and they want to be heard by the town council. And so one of the things I would like the council to explore is a regular process to address these kinds of things within town departments, whether that be having some process that can go through TSO. I'm not sure, but I think it is actually egregious that they had to do all of this work just to be heard outside of public comment, which we have at every meeting, but doesn't really allow for that kind of dialogue that I think at the very least our town departments deserve. I also just echo a lot of what some of my colleagues have said about the DPW building and some urgency there and moving that along. I won't bring up, I think many of my ideas have already been stated there. But I did also want to take a moment to voice sort of my frustration about having what it took to have this meeting take place and the fact that some of those things are process-based and there's not much I can do about that, but I think it feels appropriate to just voice that from my perspective. And that it was my understanding in agenda setting meetings that we would have the ability to present a motion tonight. I had explicitly asked for that to be the case. And so I'm feeling a little bit blindsided and a little bit frustrated. I understand that that is completely the decision of the council president, and I respect that decision, but I just wanted to voice my frustration there because I had a motion ready to go for tonight and am just finding out now that I cannot propose that motion. And so I'm feeling a bit frustrated about that, but I would be happy to talk about my motion, to write a memo, to bring it up at the next meeting. But again, just voicing that frustration and how difficult it has been to just have these conversations with the council, which we can't do outside of these meetings because of open meeting law. And so it feels like just another unnecessary barrier to figuring out what we can do as a council. Yeah, so I don't know if it makes sense to even say the motion language to just,
So what I would say is you can talk about it. I would request a memo be written with a proposed motion there and sent to the agenda setting team, myself and you in general. And I will say, I thought during agenda setting, I made it clear that by putting this item under presentations and discussions, there would be no motions. I know you were in those meetings, not all counselors were, but I thought I had made that clear. So if I didn't, I will try and do better next time on that issue, but yeah.
thank you. I do appreciate that because I do explicitly recall in the agenda setting meeting saying that I think that counselors may want to propose motions and that there should be the opportunity to do so at this meeting. So that was also explicitly said, not that I was sure what your ultimate decision was and that we would not be able to make motions outside of action items because I'm not sure that that has uniformly been the case. So I think it's very important to be clear about that. The motion that I have worked on is sort of aligned with something you talked about earlier, Mandy Jo, in terms of the water and sewer fees and looking at restructuring that and knowing that the finance committee and the town manager will be looking at that soon. I'm hoping to request that the town manager provide the following information with the proposed FY27 water and sewer rates, current and projected revenues and expenditures within the water and sewer enterprise funds, an assessment of whether current rate structures adequately support system maintenance and infrastructure needs, workforce sustainability within the enterprise funded operations, including recruitment and retention challenges within the Department of Public Works, long-term financial stability of the enterprise funds, consideration of the relationship between enterprise fund capacity and broader DPW staffing challenges, and consideration of whether adjustments to water and sewer rates or alternative structural changes may be warranted to ensure that enterprise funds are adequately resourced in an equitable and sustainable manner.
Thank you. I do request that you put that in. I know it's in writing because you couldn't have come up with that in your head. Into a memo, send it to me, and we can talk about how we can get that on an agenda. We do have a meeting next week. Okay.
Will do. Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you. Councillor Kenna Martin. No. Andy.
I think the swing space discussion is important, and but I'm not sure if how swing space works for, repair bays, garages. Do we have space that would be adequate for that? And that may be something that we'd want to hear about. We are going to have a school that's going to be empty as of this summer, and we have the North Amherst offices, and we have, the South School. So for office space, we have plenty of office space. And I guess it'd be good to know. I think we should push, with some urgency for that, and then figure out what we can do to make, the heavy dutier repair bay space, safe if we don't have another repair bay space that we can use. So I guess that's a question that we can dig into. I, um, I think that this is one of several financial pinches that we've had in town. And I think it's a symptom of tough choices that the, management is put into because we don't have enough money. And I think we really need to get serious about generating more revenue in this town. I think we need to have a revenue goal for the town to say, what would it take for us to get to a point where we have some sort of sustainability? And if we're going to do that, I think we have to have to recognize that, developing more housing, developing more economic activity is a key way of doing that. So I think we need to think about the whole system and how we have enough money. So we're not just saying, oh, we can't fix the roads because we have to fix the middle school roof, or we can't pay, these workers because these other workers want more money, or we just, we need more money and we need a reasonable plan for getting it.
Thank you. Councillor Kendall Martin.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with Andy to an extent, but I don't think there's any money issue that justifies putting the health and safety of workers in danger, ever. That should be priority number one, that anyone who works for this town should be able to go to work and they should be safe and not be at risk of becoming ill or injured because of the working conditions. So I think that we need to figure that piece out sooner rather than later. And again, I just want to circle back to what is the process to get a swing space? I would like to know, is it a motion that we make? Is it a request that we make? Is it, what is it? What is that process? And then point number two, I do want to touch on just the fact of what's been mentioned by the workers many, many times in this meeting and previously. And that is the issue of the turnover rate and with these jobs, and the fact that we're constantly having new people coming in and being trained here in Amherst and then leaving for other jobs where they can make more money. And that in turn causing understaffing and lack of people who have the ability to run our wastewater and our water treatment plants and other equipment in town. That is a health and safety risk for our entire community, including Amherst College, including UMass, anyone who's on our systems, that is a health and safety risk. So I reject the idea that shouldn't be addressed in open session, because that is something that puts our entire community at risk. And also, I don't understand why the executive session was taken off, because we were going to have an executive session where we could talk about these issues with Paul. So I would like an explanation on that as well, if possible.
Regarding the executive session, the town manager had requested I put it on the agenda, and today I received a request that I remove it from the agenda by him. So I have removed it from the agenda, because if it is not a request of the person who is the request of the person with respect to bargaining or litigation, I do not believe it should be on the agenda, because the town manager, as we've all seen in the charter, is the bargaining representative for the town.
So just to be clear, the only way to talk about this is an open session.
Collective bargaining issues cannot be talked about in open session. Lynn. This is a discussion of the town council. This is not general public comment at this time. Lynn.
Thank you. I want to actually thank the workers for coming tonight and the other nights you've been here. Part of the reason is building on what Andy Churchill has said, and that is the people in town of Amherst need to understand the trade-offs. Some people want this, some people want that, some people want yet something different. I will tell you, our roads are a mess. I was on one of those I've been on 2 building committees. I chaired 2 building committees before I came on this council. This has been one of my agenda items from day one. Am I sitting here happy about the progress? No, not even remotely. And when I sit in, because I've now gone to 2 or 3 of the meetings of the DPW building committee, and I'm watching 1 or 2 people on the committee suggest we should open up and look at yet different sites, I'm going, no, We're doing it this way. Let's figure out the swing space. Let's get it done. Let's keep moving forward. We're going to, when we build that swing space, let's make sure that we build it so it's usable for other things or for DPW. So if we're going to use Ruxton and we're going to put something there, let's put it there so that we can use it over time. In other words, be wise about how we're spending. But I want to go back to the original point, and that is everybody in this town has a demand, and we are up against it, as is every other town in Massachusetts. Even the other day, Lexington, the richest town in Massachusetts, is talking about layoffs. I'm sitting there going, something's broken. It's broken at the state level. God knows we know it's broken at the federal level. And unfortunately, it's now trickled down. And so I really want to say thank you for helping people understand what you're up against. 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, we're going to have another group in here. We're going to hear what they're up against. We're going to have parents here. They're not going to be happy about the schools. And then we're going to have another fire, and somebody's going to tell us the fire department is understaffed because, and we're lucky we didn't lose a life in our recent big fire. I also want to say to our colleagues sitting here, it is incumbent upon us, the counselors of this town, to understand the juggling act we are going to have to do to try to keep a balanced budget and keep Amherst moving forward. And then we are going to have to make some other tough decisions about things like zoning, housing, and other things that we've talked about before. So it's important that we've heard from you. I'm sorry that we are dealing with a building I agree should be condemned. Hey, it's an old trolley barn, and it still looks like an old trolley barn. It is, I've been there many times. I'll be glad to come back for yet another visit and see what the latest buckets are, because I've seen them. It's a mess. Thank you.
Sam McLeod.
Thank you, Mandy. I'm not familiar with progress or discussions that have occurred to date on a swing space, and that's great to hear. It seems to me that if that swing space involves building and other aspects, that it's apt to be time consuming. Great to plan, but from my, perspective or thoughts on this, I believe it's still in our interest, regardless of what swing space has been discussed to date, that if there are available spaces in town now, that it's worth identifying what it would take to get it ready. It's also, I think, would be worth discussing with DPW leadership to identify if the concept of some of these spaces being used is or would be desirable. It could be organizationally, it could impact communications and some aspects, but, would it does not address the need for a new building, and it doesn't address the other items on discussion, but would it be desirable? And if so, what would it take? Maybe it would only be space for the worst offices. I don't know. But if there's available space, let me put it this way. Maybe we can identify what's necessary to get them usable and to offer them as usable space, if desired. There's lots of other discussions going on here, and I'm not, talking negotiations or anything like that, but buildings take a long time. We've seen it. Money is an issue. Some of us saw this, 8 years ago. We don't know how quickly it's going to happen, but if there's something we can do, we can at least explore it and broach the topic and see what it is. Those are my thoughts on the swing space. Thank you.
Counselor Brevik.
So I raised my hand actually just to say that in terms of the swing space, thinking about the school spaces opening up in the fall, that I feel like that is too long to wait. And I just wanted to throw that in there, that I think it's, barely April, and September just feels, and in the hot months where mold is really a bigger issue, I think that I want to keep that in mind. But I did want to just also add, given some of the other comments, that for folks who are listening too, that I don't know if all of us necessarily agree with the sentiment that, like everybody has their thing, so get in line, or there are issues outside of Amherst, so there's nothing we can do, and that kind of sentiment. I just really feel like it's our job to prioritize appropriately, and people's health and lives are top priority. And we know that. I think the counselors who were saying these things, that we all know that, we all agree. Health and safety are top priority, and it is our job to listen to all the requests, but then make decisions not based on, you know, the item of the day, but what's top priority for people's health and safety. And I've already just in a few months seen areas that are clearly we can, move funds, hopefully in this budget season, to really think about reprioritizing in ways that make sure that we keep people safe as our top priority. And also that I agree with Andy fully that we need to think about revenue as a cohesive goal for the council. I do find it hard to believe that this hasn't been a stated collective effort in the past. Maybe I'd love to learn about what's been done in the past around this, but really work with anyone who wants to work together to come up with some language that could unify our efforts around increasing revenue. Because it needs to be, in my opinion, it's such a diffuse and broad goal that without kind of agreement or consensus among us on how we want to go about that, I think it will be hard to accomplish. And I would love to work together to think about the different avenues for increasing revenue.
Jennifer.
Thank you. So I mean, we all agree that economic development and bringing more business to Amherst is a top priority for any number of reasons, certainly to help us work out of our budget challenges. But 10 years ago, in 2016, when that DPW committee was meeting, and they probably said, oh, if we change our zoning and we build more off-campus student housing complexes, that will help us raise the money to build a DPW building. And in the last 10 years, we have added hundreds of units of the new apartment complexes and thousands of off-campus beds, primarily for students. And that has not helped us get any closer to paving our roads and building a DPW building and a myriad of other needs that we have. So that is not the answer to our problems. I hear that. I was surprised anyway in campaign trail to hear that talked about a lot, that we need to keep building. And that's, how we're going to solve our budget challenges. It's one component, but that's not. And I always talk about, our UMass and Amherst College need to step up. And that's something that could happen a lot quicker than building, adding, again, hundreds and thousands of off-campus students' beds to our housing inventory.
Anna.
I think just, Jennifer, to your point, we've also added new departments and new programs and new land. It's not that we haven't added new things that have taken up those budget dollars, in all fairness. So I think that the council hasn't always asked the right questions. And I think what Councilor Brevik and Councilor Cano Martin said would be really astute elements to make sure our top line in the budget guidelines for next year as we write those. That is not a frontline fix right now, but you're absolutely right. That is the critical piece here, and it should be at the top above everything else, is keeping our staff safe. So I appreciate that. We're kind of asking questions into the ether, and I would like responses. So I'd like to ask the town manager some questions and give you time to respond maybe before we're done asking all of the questions in the world. And then similarly, I have a question for the town council president and for Councilor Rooney. So first off, I believe I am not mistaken that Amherst College did donate land for a new DPW building many years ago. Is that correct? And then the council at the time or town meeting, I don't remember which, it was the council turned it down because there were resident concerns about noise. I think we also need to own that we've made conscious choices that have actively delayed this decision. And while we may not have been on this body at the time, that is this body's decision, and we need to take accountability for that. So my questions for the town manager, we keep saying swing space. We really mean temp space, right? Like we're really thinking it's not necessarily a swing space and that anybody can just hop in and out of it. It's more of a temp space. I'd like to know why, or if that has been discussed or why it has not, and what, I think similar to what Sam McLeod was saying, what it would take to do that and what the impact on services might be. I know those are big questions, but if there's a rough estimate, I'd love to hear that. On the revenue front, something that gets discussed a lot is that the library and the schools both have state funding entities through the MLBC and the MSBA, and there is no state funding entity for other municipal buildings. I would like to know from the council president and vice president whether they've talked to Mindy and Joe about the status of Joe's Act to create a municipal and public safety building authority. That's something that has really delayed a lot of towns, not just Amherst, but Amherst, is that we are responsible for the entirety of this funding. There is no state aid for this, which is insane. There is great state aid for schools. There's great state aid for libraries. Granted, it messes with everybody's timelines, depending on when you get those awards, but there's no state aid for public safety buildings. And this needs to be a rallying cry from us of the impact that the lack of aid has had. And then I also would really like to know, I know that we have later on the agenda an update from Councilor Rooney about the building committee, but my question is really, how has urgency factored in? How has the urgency of this project factored into the building committee and how that's being discussed? If you could talk about that in your report, not needing an answer now. I think those are all of my questions at this point. And I don't think I said it before, but I want to be very clear that thank you all for coming.
So the state building, the bill regarding the municipal building authority was not discussed in the March meeting, but it has been brought up. And in fact, at the most recent WEMO convention leadership conference, Lynn asked the MMA the status of that legislation, and they were not very positive at all that it was going to go anywhere. I think it might have actually, did they say it was sent to study? I think they might have said it was sent to study
I
again.
thought it was still in committee.
The plan was that it was going to be part of the Municipal Empowerment Act, and it is not present.
Yeah, so they're going to still work on it on the MMA side, but I will add it to the topics for the April meeting that will be next week.
Thank you. And if there's any advocacy that the council can do, please let us know. I'd love to give Paul a chance to respond to.
The town manager.
Thank you for the questions. I appreciate the conversation, and thank you to my coworkers for being here and being really clear about what the needs of the department are. You asked about the Amherst College land. Yes, we had negotiated with Amherst College to get a very good piece of land. They had been voted by the Board of Trustees to give it to the town for a DPW. And at the time, the neighbors opposed it, and is determined not to move forward on that. And swing space, I think that's a really important conversation. I appreciate the counselors bringing it up. It's something we've been thinking way more actively about. When you think about a building, you think, oh, when you start construction, you need to create swing space. And there are different ways to do that. But, lately it's like, why wait? Like, let's utilize swing space now. The need is now. So, there are different options available. I think some counselors have talked about the North Amherst School. There's 4 classrooms at the North Amherst School. We have talked about initial constructions of some buildings that would be used later on at Ruxton. And we've also talked about Wildwood School. Would that be a good swing space as well? And so our building commissioner's been looking at that building as well, and what the costs of operating that building would be if it gets turned over from the schools. That would not happen until they plan to use that building, the way I understand it, through the summer. But they would like to get rid of it. And then if the school committee releases the building, we would have access to that building. And there are a lot of benefits to that site for the swing space. And swing space is just, we're going to tear down the current DPW and build a new structure there. And there's, it's not the ideal site, but it's the site that is has the fewest barriers to success. And that's to demolish it. Their neighbors already have a DPW there. There's not going to be that kind of pushback. We know what the site contains in terms of environmental risks. Those we think can all be mediated. And so I think that there's some real, so if we're going to build there, we need to move everybody off site to someplace else. So that's, and then as we were talking about it internally, it's like, well, why wait? Why not just do it now? Because the need is very clearly articulated and clear about that building. You talked about the municipal building authority. We're not waiting for that. I mean, if that happens, fantastic, but it's not going to happen. We're not counting on that. So.
Can I ask a follow-up, please?
Yes, you may.
Sorry, I started writing sideways, which is unhelpful to me now. So is there a way that we can have a plan to get folks into the Wildwood School, or sorry, into the Wildwood School, the instant it's vacated, the instant that it turns over? And in the meantime, is it possible, 4 classrooms might not fit everybody, but is it possible to move some folks, as many folks as possible, over to the North Amherst School? I guess timeline on the temp space that'll last a little bit longer, and then feasibility of as immediate as possible temp space. Paul?
So I'd want to review this with the superintendent of public works. He has to maintain the operations of the department while everything is moving on. Those are 2 options that are available to us. And you can't just, the swing space or the space at North Amherst School was used as a childcare facility for Head Start. It does not have internet. We have to put internet in there. It's not connected to the town's intranet. So it's, but we'd have to make that, it's fixable, right? We can make that happen. Wildwood, we wouldn't be able to get in there to modify the space and address the heating and the HVAC stuff that would have to happen. I think the work that we have pretty good information about the building itself. I think it's either one of these things where it's everything is turned on or everything's turned off in terms of HVAC. And so we've looked at some modifications. Can we use, heat pumps to just heat parts of the building? And so there's different looking at that building on our own, assuming that the school committee will release the building to us come September. And they're hesitant to say anything until they know for sure they're going to get into the new school, which is, again, it's on a tight timeline. We're pretty confident that we'll be able to get in, but they're hedging their bets as well. They're saying, well, we don't want to release it if we can't fully occupy the new building for whatever reason. So I think that those are things that we're actively looking at, and I think those are real possibilities.
Thank you.
Andy?
Yeah, I think I mentioned Wildwood when I was speaking before, but I also know that we have the Ruxton space, and we have water treatment plant offices, and we have, the North Amherst School. And I guess, one of the reasons we're moving kids out of the Wildwood building is because it's not a great building with its own issues. And so I'm not sure that moving, people out of one substandard building into another is the best answer. But maybe using the North Amherst space, school space, and maybe putting a couple trailers in Ruxton or building some sort of temporary bay or something, that's space that's ready to go. So I'd be a little hesitant to just say, oh yeah, it's not good enough for the kids, but it's good enough for the workers.
Sam? Oh, Paul, did you want to respond?
Yeah, so those are all good points. Any site has its barriers. There's still permitting things, and you have to go through conservation and all the things to utilize Ruxton. It's new construction that would have to happen. So there's the bidding and the procurement and construction. An existing building is easier to access quickly. You mentioned other buildings the town owns, like the South Amherst School. And that's really not inhabitable. It's been out of commission. We looked at that a few years ago for Amherst Media, and it was not available. And, you know, it didn't, the investment you would have to make in that building was so intense that it didn't make any sense at all. Wildwood, you know, has its issues, but I think, you know, we'd look at our capital projects folks who look at it and say, what parts of it do work? We're addressing some other needs in the community as well in terms of other offices that we have to relocate. We're undertaking, the same people are doing the Bang Center, which was being funded with ARPA funds. And so there's just a lot in play, but, you know, clearly the council's priorities are the DPW has been that way for many years. But, you know, the funding opportunities is what drove the prioritization. And I think all of us would agree that the priorities would be different if the fundings weren't there. And also, I'll be honest, you know, the delays in these major capital projects in the library and in the school have cost tens of millions of dollars. And there are people who oppose things, and instead of a $68 million school, we have a $100 million school. Instead of a $35 million library, we have a $46 million library. And those are just simple delays in our own, in our own decision making. That's a true cost in terms of when people advocate for something different than what the council or has voted, it becomes a real cost to the town. That and those dollars are not doubled. They go one place or the other. And, you know, I guess that's, I mean, and I think that's the challenge for the council is that, you know, we will look, I mean, I think all the requests from Councilor Walker about water and Councilor Kenneth Martin about water and sewer fees and how can we up that, you know, that's going to be a real decision for the council in terms of what do the residents want to see in terms of raising their fees. I know there's going to do a restructuring and things like that, and that's another way to generate more funds, but there's all kinds of complications that can come with that as well. But I hear that. But ultimately the council is going to be asked to prioritize things. And they're all goods. You saw that with the choice between a new middle school roof over the auditorium or roads. And you made a decision, and that's your prerogative, and that's your responsibility to make that decision. But they're both needed. No one was saying neither one was needed, but they were both needed. And that's going to be where we're going to be when you look at the budget. Like, there are many needs in the town and not enough funds to meet them all.
Sam?
Thank you, Mandy, and thank you, Paul, for responding with your thoughts. I just would like to encourage whoever's contemplating options to not limit the potentials. You know, a non-ideal destination for a short time period might be better, even though not perfect and not up to, you know, brand new desirability to the current existing situation. And that would be the case were at Wildwood, North Amherst, and South Amherst School, from my perspective, but I'm not an expert in these issues, but I would encourage considering the time frame of need and weighing it against the quote unquote quality needed as possible options, because maybe a short term and multiple, you know, for me, does it need to be a single swing space? Why? You know, maybe there can be a few. It's not ideal. I mean, there's a desire for a new building, but in the interim, maybe there can be 3 different locations if it makes sense for the DPW. I'm sure they'll have opinions on different locations, but this is just a thought to consider all alternatives, given what I heard today. And even, you know, even if it's piecemeal, first stage, second stage, prior to when the construction takes place, whenever that might be. So another thing popped into my head I don't think is viable, but the Jones Library building there on University Drive, they're going to vacate that, right? I don't know what we pay. My guess is it would be too much compared to the alternatives. But, you know, I'm just indicating if we think outside the box, maybe there's some other locations in town that could be desirable. And we're talking about a short-term staging process, and I realize that's not the main end goal. But it's what I heard from a description of situation from some folks here today. And thank you all for coming before us.
Counselor Kendall Martin.
Yeah, just a question for you, Mandy Jo, in terms of like council action on the swing space. Sorry, in terms of council action on the swing space, can you just explain like how we would do that? Is it a motion? Is it like, what is it?
So our rules require that any measures, and that sounds like it would be a measure, of some sort of measure, is not just a bylaw or a financial order or something. And obviously we can't propose financial orders, but bylaws and other measures must be in writing, limited to one subject, clearly stated in the title, bear the name of the sponsor, and be in a form necessary for final adoption. The council clerk and I are always happy to work with any person who wants to propose a measure to make sure that the rules are followed and that it's something that is actionable. I think in a case like this, we would need to work together to figure out what the actionable part of it is. So I don't have a specific answer for you tonight on how that would like take a form of what it could look like, but certainly the clerk and I are happy to work with you to make sure it would be something that is actionable. Sorry, I can't do better than that. Counselor Ryan.
I can understand the desire to want to do something. And one of the first and most important things that we're doing is having this conversation. It's good for us. It's good for, I think, the people who work for the town to hear this. It's good for those who are listening and may listen later. Understand some of the challenges we face across the board. So the desire to do something, I understand that very much. What I've heard tonight, and I'm sure I'm missing some things, but three large topics. One of them has been swing space and the pressing health and safety issues, and to what degree that can be addressed immediately. And that sounds like something that the manager is going to be looking at very carefully. He's been talking to the head of DPW. I'm not sure a motion by this council is going to, at least at this point in time, is going to have any impact. I think we need to let him do his job. And he, I think, hears tonight very clearly our concern. So I would suggest that on that score, something needs to be done. At least we need to find out what's possible, what's feasible. And that's something the manager can report back to us on. If at that point we still are not happy as a group, then perhaps motions could be called for. But I think we're also hearing that it's a complicated issue. So I think we will hear soon, and we want to hear soon from the manager about that issue, and particularly related to the issue of health and safety. The second has been a larger question that I think was addressed, at least in part, by Councilor Walker's potential motion, and maybe a motion there is something that would be appropriate, to look at the larger issue of water and sewer rates and how that plays out. So perhaps a motion next time would be appropriate, and directing the manager as to what we would like him to do and come back to us with some answers as to what's possible and what's feasible. That addresses, as I understood the motion, or at least the idea behind it, some of the longer range issues we face, issues of retention, stability in the program. This is a crucial element of our infrastructure, and we obviously have concerns about it. And so we want to see to what degree water and sewer rates might play a role in that. The third thing I'm hearing tonight, and I haven't heard anything about it yet, but maybe it's coming later when Councilor Rooney speaks, is the DPW Building Committee. What I have heard so far is rather concerning, that apparently we have some members of the committee who are thinking of doing something different than what we thought they were supposed to be doing. So I really do want to hear in a few minutes, I hope, from somebody. I'm sorry, Pam, from you, hopefully, and maybe from Paul and anyone else who's involved directly. What I have in my notes here is, quote, light a fire under the DPW committee, building committee, unquote. But then I'm hearing things that sounds like some people wouldn't be affected by that fire. They would just be immune to it. So that's the third thing I'm hearing, is just the issue of getting the building built. There's probably other issues that I'm missing, but those are the three, and those are my thoughts on it.
Andy?
Yeah, I think just in terms of figuring out what the role, what kind of motions we would want to make. I think if it's about figuring out what space will work, I think that's a matter for the DPW, staff to work with the manager on, and we could have a motion to say, please come back to us with, with a proposal. But I don't think we should have 13 of us discussing where we should put the swing space, because we might never get around, we don't know enough. But I do think that a message has emerged that this is something that's of interest, and I think I'd be surprised if we don't hear it from it. But I would certainly support a motion to say, bring us a report on how we can come up with some space that's safe as quickly as possible with great urgency. So that's the kind of thing I think we can identify some priorities and some goals, but I'm not sure I want to sit around and say, well, we should put this department up at Ruxton and this one over in the North Amherst building and whatever. I think that's the administration's job.
Thank you. As the two of you were talking, going back to Councillor Cano Martin's question, Charter Section 2.8 and the way Pam and Kathy used it early in the tenure with a memo under Charter Section 2.8 to request investigatory and informational requests from the town manager, and a presentation at the council may be one of the options to use if it's mostly information and specific information is thinking. So just that's a possible, we have an example of a memo and all that was used, and that will be coming, theirs will be coming back to us in mid-April. But I can certainly talk with you later about that. I just wanted to bring that up as it hit my head. Councillor Cano Martin.
I just had one sort of outstanding question that I feel like hasn't been addressed, and I just wanted to see from Paul. I'm trying.
There we go.
I'm trying. So I just want to see from the town manager, can we have a commitment not to use these types of consultants that are engaging in union busting tactics going forward? Because that is a huge concern of mine. And I'm also concerned it might affect other bargaining units in the town. So I don't know if that's something we can put into like our principles or values or mission statement, but I think that would go a long way as well into having a sense of sort of trust and valuing of our workers to not have folks, consultants who are engaging in those tactics.
So I am not going to recognize the town manager on that issue, because that gets into the actual process of collective bargaining, which is solely under the town manager's purview right now.
That's why an executive session would have been helpful. Thank you.
No hand. I see no other hands at this time for this item. So we will be moving on to the committee reports. Item 5, DPW Building Committee. Pam, our counselor on the building committee.
Well, I feel like it's all been kind of dumped in my lap here. Let me position this a little better. Thank you. I want to say I am really honored to be on the building committee. I volunteered for it. I've been waiting for this moment for the 10 years since the 2016 study was done. And I asked if I could please represent the council, and I was nominated for that. I have a background in construction management. I have a background in swing space management that I did at the University of Massachusetts. And I am very focused, regardless of what people are saying, I am very focused on getting this done as quickly as we can. To the point of expediency, the charge that we were given, well, the charge I think we approved last July, but our committee fully formed and met on January 21 this year. The charge to the committee focused on the use of the existing site of the existing DPW facility. So on February 11, the committee met with the previous consultant, the Weston and Sampson mentioned before, to hear about changes in the industry since 2016, energy codes, energy efficiencies, ventilation requirements, somebody mentioned, wetland considerations, all of the things that may have changed since 2016. That report did evaluate, or at least reviewed, the existing DPW site, but the consultants have a proposal in to verify the information for the existing site. And and they were asked at least to give a cost proposal for the same level of inspection at the Ruxton site. It was also suggested within the meeting, one of the committee members suggested that we also get an evaluation of the Wildwood Elementary School site. However, it was noted by me that a great deal of information actually already exists about the elementary school site on Wildwood because of the exploration that was done in the opportunity that it might have become the actual school site. Sorry about that. And I argued strongly that we did not need to redo that examination or spend money on it. So right now, at this moment, the committee is finalizing requests for qualifications for an owner's project manager. We have to have an owner's project manager in order to kind of move forward and hire a designer. That's been edited. We'll talk about it and hopefully adopt it at our next meeting. It will go out and get hopefully qualified owner's project manager applicants. We have to do that. They have to do that for any project that's, I think, over $1.5 million. Coming on the heels of that, I've also looked at a draft for the request for qualifications for design services. So right one after the other, and that would be for something all the way through construction administration. So those two contracts are in the works and getting ready to go. And I'm hoping that those are done by the end of this June. So just in a month or two, we would have those on the street. There are some I'm going to talk a little bit about swing space and then give you the upcoming meetings. The list of formulating swing space and taking everyone's comments, if you want to email me directly and just say, hey, take a look at this, take a look at that. It has been on my own personal to-do list to start that list of swing space and the capacities of each of these places to accommodate functions within the existing staff needs. Earlier, obviously, is better than later in terms of getting a department into space that is less problematic than where you are now. So the swing space is an early need, and I think as Lynn pointed out, whatever we do, whether it's swing, meaning move in, move back to the new facility, or a permanent addition to the complex of facilities that we have, those new constructions need to be as efficient as possible so that we're not wasting money on just a temporary shed when it could also serve us long-term. That's the kind of, so if anyone has ideas or thoughts, email me. I'm on the town council website, rooneyp@amherstma.gov, and you can ask questions about the building committee or ideas about where we might put folks. The next upcoming meetings, April 8 at 2 p.m., April 15 at 2 p.m., April 29 at 2 p.m., May 13 at 2 p.m., and May 27 at 2 p.m. Some of the locations vary, but those will be on the town website. Those are all in person. Those are all in person, and I do not believe that they haven't been hybrid yet, and I'm hoping that they may be hybrid. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
Questions? Counselor Ryan?
So two, the first is this talk of alternate sites. Is that something you feel is gone and is not going to come back? Or is this something that may be a recurring theme over the next few months?
I think, I think the same person will bring up the issue again, and I think it may be met with the same response. Because I think if we're going to move ahead with any kind of speed, we can't be spending time analyzing another site.
I mean, the charge does explicitly state.
Yes, it does. Yes,
So
it does. So perhaps
maybe
this
someone should
person
read the
shouldn't
charge.
be on the committee.
Yeah, right. And the second question is whether you feel that, and this is just subjective and maybe it's not fair, but do you feel that there is a strong sense of urgency?
Yes.
You do. Okay.
Yes.
I know you share it. You feel that many of your colleagues do as
Yes.
well. Okay, thank you.
Especially Guilford.
Kathy?
I know you and I did this once, just the two of us. We walked the Ruskin site just to get a sense of, you all probably know what it looks like, but it's near my house and I walk the dog there a lot. This time I walked it with, where might you put a building? Are you going to take the committee up to walk that
Yes,
site?
yep.
Okay.
And I don't remember which of these days. Actually, it's April 29.
Because one of the virtues of it, it's not necessarily the only virtue of it, is it gets fantastic Wi-Fi reception because there's a tower right there, but then there are other issues around it. So just a question, when Lynn said temporary, I thought when we were looking at that it might be a permanent building that was temporarily used one way and then would be used another way, so that we would be starting if we're building at two sites. So I know, Pam, that's part of the discussion, but if you can get your one member off not wanting to look for other sites, but just really focus on,
Yeah.
these are the two biggies. So you think it's the 29th?
The 29th is the visit to Ruxton.
Okay, thanks.
Lynn?
Having now been to two of the meetings, and at the last meeting, I was joined by two other counselors, and we all specifically expressed strong opposition to the idea of even bringing in the Wildwood site. And I just have to say, I hope that we're done with that discussion because it's only causing delay. The second thing is, every once in a while, I hear people say, oh, but it needs to be in one location. Hey, DPW is never going to be in one location. You're already in multiple locations. And if we were in a big urban area, you'd be all over the place. And so you know how to communicate with Wi-Fi and phones and all the other devices that you have, and we probably don't even know. So this issue that a DPW can only be in one site, we defy that anyway, because we're never going to move our sewer and water plant to one location with everything else. So please let that not be the enemy of the good. So in the process of all of this, I think if you feel that the council needs to reiterate its commitment to the existing site to send a message, please let us know that. We'll bring up motions in the future. Thank you.
Counselor Canna Martin?
Pam, I just wanted to make a suggestion to you all. If you might want to, I think you could probably update your charge and think about including maybe one or two DPW workers on the committee, if you all are amenable to that, just to have that input built in. And I don't know about the feasibility of attending meetings at 2 in the afternoon. I know I would love to attend a meeting, but generally I can't do in-persons around that time. I usually have to do Zoom. So making those meetings hybrid would be helpful, and then perhaps consulting the union to see if you all would have one or two people that could be on that committee.
So I believe the charge was created by the town manager, not the town council. So I would request that you direct that request of an amendment to a charge directly to the manager, who is sitting here, but.
Paul, would you be able to do that?
We certainly consider it.
Thank you.
Anna. Oh, sorry, Sam, and then Anna.
Thank you, Mandy, and thank you, Pam. Question, Pam, I assume many people may already be aware of this, but am I correct that part of the task ahead for the building committee is to, as designs come forward, to consider designs of various scopes that would have different cost breaks? Is it just too early to be thinking like this?
Well, I'll just say that there is a budget and this, and any alternatives must come in within that budget.
Okay.
It's, so let me step back. If this were an ideal situation, we would continue to to explore sites. We would continue to think about all the ways that, you know, every possible scenario could be met with this new facility. It will be the facility for the next 50 to 100 years. But we have a budget, we have a site, and we will create a really great facility there. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
I think you've answered my question, which would have been the question I should have asked. So I understand what you're communicating. The budget's going to determine the options. And secondly, I just wanted to say, I'm glad hearing your background that the council selected you for this committee.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you're representing the council on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna.
Pam, I appreciate the work that you're doing on this committee, and also it sounds like the work that you're doing to focus members on the charge, you and others are doing to keep folks focused on the charge. I keep thinking about how what I don't want to end up with is a camel, which is a horse designed by committee. And I worry that when we're constantly throwing in new ideas to something that a decision has been made, even if everyone doesn't love it, we're going to end up with a camel. So I appreciate your focus there. My concern is really logistical. I share Amber's inability to always make 2 p.m. weekday meetings, but I'm curious, when I looked on the committee page, the meetings weren't necessarily posted. It said that the committee will determine the meeting day, and then there didn't seem to be minutes. And I assume there won't be recording since it's not hybrid. This is not me pressuring. I'm just curious if there will be minutes soon so that those of us who can't attend the 2 p.m. can keep up with the committee more accurate or more quickly. Paul?
Yes, so minutes are prepared and they'll be on the next meeting's agenda.
Thank you so
for
much.
all past meetings.
Great, thanks.
Lynn?
Yeah, just a small piece of history. Since the beginning of the council, there has been an RFP to look for additional sites for DPW. And we basically, I mean, the town manager can address this better, we came up empty. So, and then there also was the look at the site off of Stanley Street. And the issue, besides noise, was the fact that it's neighborhood and people felt that we were picking on lower income people and putting a dump in their backyard, just to put it bluntly. It's my district. I heard it. I was at all those meetings. Thank you.
Seeing no other hands at this time, I am going to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We will move to a vote. We start with Councillor Breivik.
Yes.
Councillor Cano Martin.
Yes.
Andy Churchill.
Yes.
Anna Devon Gauthier.
Aye.
Lynn Griesemer.
Aye.
Mandy Jo Haneke is an aye. Councillor Lord.
Aye.
Sam McLeod.
Aye.
Pam Rooney.
Oh, yes.
Councillor Ryan.
Oh, yes.
Kathy Shane.
Yes.
Jennifer Taub.
Yes.
And Councillor Walker.
Yeah.
The motion to adjourn passes. We are adjourned at 8:19 p.m.
If I could just say